All right. Welcome to JavaScript class. As you can see here, home of headache and serious thinking. Nothing serious, but it's not like the HTML that A plus B, the 1 plus 2 is always 3. Here, just like that way too, just like you can get 1 plus 3 to be 4, 2 plus 2 to be 4. So which means that a different way of getting value 4 like that. So it's here too, things you can get the same result in different way. Just that this one is more advanced than the CSS part like that. So, and what is JavaScript? As you can see from here, so JavaScript is just a scripting language that we use to manipulate or add interaction to the page that you are going to be working with there like that. So JavaScript is a standalone language on its own, but it actually started from the browser there, which means it can only work on the browser. Just like your HTML, you can't see the results outside of the browser. You have to be on the browser before you can see the results. But these days, JavaScript is more than something you can use on the browser. You can use it on the system directly on its own. So which means you can use it to build mobile app. Once you know JavaScript, that experience you have there, you can use that same JavaScript to build mobile app by using some of the framework that developed to work on the mobile there. Like again too, you can use it to build something on the normal system by using some other framework like Electron. So you create the code with your HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, then to convert it to what the system can use. I like that. Mostly all the applications you see these days, like all this Discord, whatever stuff, they are using JavaScript with the addition of some other things that make it possible to work. But yeah, we're only going to be focusing on how to use it on the page like that. And almost all the sites you are going to see online, you are going to see a form of interaction on the elements there, like that. For example, now, like this button. Once this button is clicked, you see that something is coming out. It's usually when you click on it that that thing is going to appear. And once you click on it again, you see that it closes back. So which means something is going on there. There's interaction there. So you're checking whether that thing has open, like it's open. So if it's open, it closes it. But if it's not open, then it's opening. Look at the icon too that is going on there. As you can see, based on whether that thing is open or not, it's changing. So this is what JavaScript can help you to do. The same thing here too. If I click on this one now, as you can see, it closes that pop-up and the icon changed to another one. And once I click again, as you can see, the icon is changing. And again, if I click on this, you see another thing open up. The HTML, the CSS are there, but there is something that is connecting them together with the user, because you're not going to see all this in until you click on that box. But almost all the elements that we've talked about, as you can see, they are here. All the HTML and the CSS, the checkbox and so forth, they are here. The buttons, the colors, everything are here. But the only thing we need right now is now the interaction. And in order for you to do that, you need the JavaScript language in order for you to be able to do something like that. The same thing here too. If you look at it, as you can see that this thing is changing, which is something that we use WordPress that time. But what is going on behind the scene? This is the language they are using to achieve this thing. HTML is static. Once you type it in your code there and you send it to the browser, you cannot change it again. Whatever you are displaying, that's the only thing you can show. But on the page these days, things are changing based on what the user is doing. Some stuff are going to be added or some are going to be removed, just like what happened here. So if I click on this, something is being added to the page. And once you click on it again, it's removing that element. It's still on the page, but you are not going to see it until you interact with the element that will trigger that action. And in order for you to be able to do that, you need to have the knowledge of JavaScript like that. So, and how do we add it to our page? We have the internal and the external method you can use, just like the way it is for your CSS. When you want to connect it to the page, you can either use the external one or you use the internal. And you know, under the internal, we have the embedded, we have the inline CSS. But here, we only have two, which is this internal and external like that. And where are you going to be including your scripts? So where are you going to be including JavaScript? Anytime I say script, it's just JavaScript. So just like the way we normally do in our CSS, we used to put it at the top, but you can actually put your CSS anywhere on the page. So you can put your script or you can put your style. So normally, we used to put it at the top, but you can actually put it anywhere on the page. But normally, you always say it at the top. The same thing here too. When you want to connect to JavaScript, we just need to use this tag, which is known as script like that. So inside this script, whatever you are doing there is all about JavaScript. So it's no more HTML. The same thing here too, that everything here is all about CSS. Here too, everything here is all about JavaScript like that. But we don't really place it at the top like this. We normally place it before the closing tag of the body. So this is where we normally place it. That one CSS used to be at the top, but this one we normally place it before the closing tag of the. And why do we used to do this? The reason we used to do this, there are some scripts or there's some JavaScript that used to take time to load because the browser has to download everything. So and the way browser works, because your HTML is really fast and downloading of Java CSS is really fast. So you see all your content at once. But when you are dealing with JavaScript, that thing can take time. And the browser will stop on this line and download everything first. So which means it will not get to the body. And since it will not get to the body, then everything is going to be blank on the screen. But you want to load some basic content first so that later on it will not load the JavaScript. Because the way browser works, it loads everything line by line. Starting from this, read everything line by line. Just like you are reading book, there's no way you go down, you now be reading up. You start from up, then you keep going down, then it will keep interpreting everything one by one. So okay, you want to do this, you want to do this, you want to do this. But once it's get here, if your JavaScript here is going to take time, it will wait for it to finish whatever it's going to do first before it will now continue with the other content. So which means when the user load the stuff, you are not going to see anything at all. You just see blank screen. And if something like can take up to 1 minute, who is going to be waiting for 1 minute for your this thing to load? But you want to show something to the user first. But you now inform them, okay, I'm still processing some other stuff behind the scene. And once that one is coming, then it will update whatever it needs to update. Yeah, but for now, I can just put one simple JavaScript here, which doesn't do anything, which is this console log. Yeah, I will explain this. What is this dot later on, but for now, I'll be using this console log. And what is this console? Console here is part of what you have on your browser as part of the dev2 experience there. So we show you the dev tools where you can inspect what is going on with your CSS and what are the HTML that you have on the page. What is the browser doing? So again, to JavaScript too, the browser have the console where you can see the results, or you can just log out whatever you are doing in your code there like that. So yeah, I can open this in, enter the dev tools like that by using the Control Shift I, and as you can see, since I'm using this browser, is showing them by the side, but it's still the same thing when you're using other browser. The difference is just that it will not be just icon is going to put the text, but here you have to go over them before you can see what each one of them is representing. And this is what I'm looking for here, which is console. So in order for you to communicate with this console from your code, this is what you are going to be using. So this console now is the one that have the direct link to that console on the browser. And there are different type of message you can send there. And one of the messages is this log. It's just to output like a message, just normal message. But this is not the only type of message you can output. You can output a warning message, or you can output error message. And the way it's going to display them will be different from each other. Since I'm telling that, okay, the message I'm sending to you is error message. So by the time you get there and the browsers load there like that, you say that it's going to bring out the error like that. I don't know what is wrong with this edge, that it doesn't show my errors again. It doesn't show my console log, but I will have to switch to another browser, and that's why I'm using Chrome here like that, because I don't know what's wrong with this edge, that this thing is no more working. So save this one and go back, and as you can see, I'm not seeing anything. Why is it not showing? And as you can see, everything is ticked already, which is this info. It can show warning and it can show error like that. Info is just normal the normal log that you have there. But this is not opening, so I'm going to switch to another browser. That's how it works on my other system too. I don't use Edge again these days to do console log stuff because it doesn't show the error. I've updated, like this one has been updated tired. Still the same thing. So let me see this one. So this one too, as you can see now, we have everything here, but it's not that icon, it's just the normal text. So just click on it. As you can see, this one is showing you, this is what we call the warning like this. So any kind of a color like this is known as a warning message. So let me run our own HTML page like that. And once it's done loading, index, why is it not? Oh, is the server stop? Oh, the server has stopped. All right, so let me see if it's going to show back again. Yeah, so as you can see now, the message it's coming out, and this one is being sent by the live server that we're using. So as you can see, it's sending that message there, like that. So going back to our code, I'm sending the message on, or the normal log. But apart from that, we can send on that type of log. But we'll not be using all this one. What I always use is just log, because it's just normal message. In order for you to see results of all these items that we're going to be talking about here, because you need to see what is going on, because you can't just see everything on a page like this. You don't have the JavaScript until you talk to it to have access to the content. It doesn't put anything on the screen like the HTML. So where you can send the message to is this your console in order for you to see the result. But later on, when we get to this the sixth item here, we are going to be talking about, as you can see, getting element on the page and how you can now manipulate them. But before you can start manipulating the content on the page, you need to have a basic understanding of all this one, because that's what you are going to be using here. Like, you'll be combining them together, just like our HTML, that you need to know what is p tag, what is a tag, what is form, what are the stuff you can put there. Then later on, you now combine them together. The same thing here too. You need to understand all these items here before you can start manipulating the content. But as we are working on all this thing, we need to see the results. So in order for us to see the results, that's the reason why we need this console, so that we can send the message there, and you can send different type of message. And as you can see now, it's going to be the warning type. It's still the same message, but now we are sending warning message. And again, you can send error message like that. And as you can see, that's not the stuff. Oh, I type nonsense here. But again, too, JavaScript is not like HTML that you just type things anyhow and it will handle it. This one doesn't handle anything for you. Once you do anything that it doesn't understand, what you get is the error. So it will tell you what is going on, again, where is detecting the error, and the line that it detects the error. So it's telling us that there's a problem, which is this type error. So it doesn't know, can you see, console dot whatever stuff is not a function. Once we get to this part, you are going to know what is a function. You can see that it's bringing out the message, but right now you don't know what is function. Once we get there, you're going to know what is a function. But what this thing is just saying is I'm trying to use something that it doesn't know about, because that error that I type is not correct stuff that I supposed to type. As you can see, this is not the correct letter. So since I did not type the correct stuff, that's why it's telling me that it cannot perform this action. So, and again, you are going to be having a lot of error. It's part of what you are going to face, because there are some things you are going to do that it will not work according to the way it's supposed to work, or you are trying to access something that is not there. What you are going to get is error. It's not like the HTML, when you type that it will not display. This one, it will not display, and at the same time it will error. And again too, whatever that follows it will stop. Once it detect error, any other that follows it, nothing will work again. So which means here, if I put something like welcome to JS like this, and if I save, nothing like this will happen, because it's seen error on line 10, so it will stop on that line. So it doesn't continue it again with the remaining line like that. So until you fix that line 10, before it will not continue. It will do everything before this line, but it will not do anything after this line once there is error on a particular line. So that line, that's where it will stop. And that's why it's telling you where it's detecting the error: the file, then the line. Sometimes this line might not be the actual line where you have the error, but just so that whatever line is telling you is that line and above, not after that line. So the error might actually come before that line, but that's the line is detecting error, because in JavaScript, sometimes the way you type this in, you can actually leave space like this. So even though the error is coming here, but when it comes down, it's not saying the error on this line. So it might not tell you, oh, I'm detecting error on line 12, whereas the error is actually coming from line 10. So once it tell you there is a particular error, go to that line first. But if nothing is happening on that line, then you keep going up to look, not that you go down, because it stop on that line. It doesn't continue with whatever you have after the line that is showing here like that. But once I fix this error like that and I save, you see that it's going to perform the two action. So you can see the first one, then the second one. As you can see, it's telling you the same, the where the thing is coming from, the file, because you are going to have a lot of file. So it will tell you the file that actually triggered the action and the line that triggered the action, so that you can quickly, because this thing is very important. When you have error, you know where to go to look for the error, not that you start looking around at where is this error coming from. Once it tell you, you see the file and you're going to see the line, you just need to go to that place and look for the error that you want to fix there like that. So look at it now, nothing is stopping our script. So if I reload this page, it will not stop what is going on, because this thing is really fast. But there's some stuff that can happen that will make the stuff to stop on this line. For example, here now, I can just use what is that self? Let me use this confirm. So this is another thing that is built in into the browser, and this is what you always see this thing a lot on your browser. Maybe you want to carry action, they will now ask you, are you sure you want to do this thing or not, like that. So once I save this stuff like that, can you see now? See that nothing is happening, because it saved that line and it stopped, because it needs to like finish this action first before it can continue doing all that stuff. And as you can see now, it did not like put every other thing. Yes, it's still low, because it's still on that line. It's yet to finish. So it's not left for you. It's not left for you to stop that line and let it continue with the other thing. And the only thing I need to stop is for you to click OK or cancel like that, and something will be returned back. But you know about all this thing when we get to function. And as you can see now, the other one are fast, because rendering the HTML is really fast. It even take up to milliseconds to complete all this action like that. But then later on, when you started adding a lot of things, it might take time for you to render some stuff depending on the how large is that content. But for this simple text, there's some way it is going to take time to render the content on the screen like that. So JavaScript is really, really powerful, but I'm not going to be doing all this in here. So whatever I want to do is going to be at the bottom here like that. So everything you are doing at the top here, there you can do it down here like that. So welcome to JS, and once you save, you see that we're having the same, but now it's telling us it's coming from line 92 now. So from there, if you go back, you see that that's where that console log is coming from like that. So this is what we call the internal JS like this. But how do you connect to the external one? So to connect to the external one, it's still the same script to be using, but now we are going to be adding the SRC option, which is the source, just like your image. You want to put into where the script is coming from. So it can be inside the same folder, or it can be the online one, or any of those. Just like the way you link, anytime you're dealing with linking of files, it's still the same method you follow. So here now I can just use my index.js, and what this thing is saying is that whatever I want to do with this script is coming from this file index.js. And again, you cannot put anything here like this. Once you use external, you cannot do anything here. So this won't work like that. So it will not do anything from here. It will only do whatever that is coming from the file. Once you pass this SRC, it will not do anything that is in between the script again. It will abandon the stuff there like that. But if it is this one, then it's going to show this error means it can't find the file, because you know the file we are looking for index.js. But if you look at the project, as you can see, there is nothing like index.js. So in order for that error to go like that, so what we need to do, as you can see, it's telling us as refuse to execute the script. because there's no way it's going to run the script when it cannot find the script. So what do I want to run like that? So here we just need to create a file. So index.js like that. And once this file is created and we reload the page like that, so reload the page, you see that there won't be any error message, but nothing will show because we don't have anything inside that JS file. And if you notice too, you see that everything that we put inside this place is not coming out. That won't work. It did not show. So whatever you put here, once you use script, it will abandon it. So when you're using external, you go with external. If you want to use internal, then you go with normal script. Not that. So if you even want to use the two of them, you have to separate it like this. So internal will be on its own, then external too will be on its own, because you can create multiple scripts like that. Not that you can only have one script. You can have multiple scripts coming together to achieve a particular goal or to do whatever you want them to perform on the screen. And that's what you're going to be doing later on when you are dealing with all this framework that you're going to be using. Because when we learn about this thing, we're not going to be using JavaScript by ourselves directly. We are going to be using a framework to simplify the process of working with the content on the page. Because when you want to manipulate things on the page using JavaScript yourself, there's a lot of things you have to do. But instead of you doing that, it would be nice if I can just focus on what I want to achieve, not how I'm going to achieve it. When you're dealing with JavaScript, you must know what you are going to do and then how it's going to do it. You have to explain everything to it. This is what I want to do, and this is how you are going to do it. As you can see, all this thing here now. So when you want to manipulate any content, you have to get that element first, or you have to create it, then you place it on the page, or you go and locate it wherever it is on the page, and you change whatever that is there. But with a framework, you don't need to start doing all the magic that is going to be coming from here. It's going to undo all those things for you behind this. You're only just to describe how things are going to look like when they get to the screen. But how is it going to get it to that place? It will undo all those ones for you. But you need to understand what is going on here first before you know what, because there's some things you want to do that too, that you have to come back into this low level. And if you don't understand what is going on, then there is no way you'll be able to handle what you want to do. And again, to when you're dealing with WordPress now, there's only like a framework there like that. So what you use is just normal JavaScript. So and it's better you just like normal HTML and CSS that you have experience, but you cannot take that experience to like WordPress, and anywhere you need to do your own custom stuff, then you add your own normal CSS and JavaScript, and you are good to go like that. So the JavaScript is very, very important. The three of them are very important. The HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript are like that. And from JavaScript, you can manipulate your HTML and you can manipulate your CSS. They're like that. So it has the power to change anything on the screen. But before you start doing all these things, you need to know about all these constructs that we have here. We have the data type. So everything you are going to be seeing on the, or the way you are going to be working with some data in JavaScript, the data are divided into these basic types here like that. This is not all, but these are the basic one that you always use like that. And when you're talking about number, so let me go into the file now. But everything I'll be doing now, it will be coming from here. So I'm going to disable this one like that, because I don't want it to be showing out there like that.
Even if you use internal and external, there's nothing like one is bigger than one.
No, it depends on how you arrange. Know the way the browser work is interpreting everything line by line. So if you see this one, it will interpret it. Then once it's done with this, it moves to the next line. Then it's not see that this one is coming from another file, so it will enter this file. Then I perform everything that is there line by line. The way you arrange the code, that's the same way it's going to interpret them. But later on, it doesn't work like that. When you get to some advanced stuff that is not even on this list, when you have started getting into promise. So for example, now if you go to the API, it's something that can take time before that one will come back. So just because that one is fetching the data doesn't mean other things should not work on the page. For example, here now, if you look at these sites that I'm working on, so once I reload the page like that, the data that we want to use is not available at the time of the thing will be rendered. So that doesn't mean this thing should not carry out, as you can see, even though it's fetching, that doesn't mean I cannot do any other thing on the page. it will be doing that one, but other things too I can. And once that one is back, then you need to come back and update whatever it needs to update it. But those one are advanced stuff that we don't need now. But you need this knowledge here in order for you to start doing something that is coming from this other screen like that. So and that's what you only see on every site that do with or that deal with data management. So if you need to get the data, they have to do this in, load the data for you, and they will show the loading. If it's something that they need to show the loading for you, or do something. But that doesn't mean it to stop other things from working like that. But the one want to be working right now, that one it works line by line. So if the first line is taking time, then it will not move forward at all. It will just stop. But there's a way of bypassing that by telling, even though this first line, you can take time, just leave that one, be doing it in the background, continue with other stuff. Then when that one is done, you go back and pick the results. So that's what we call promise. Like you are promising this in that later on, when I'm done, I will give you back the data, or you get error depending on whatever that the user will be getting there like that. So the first thing we have there is number. So when you're talking about number, because the way this thing represent number is not like the HTML that you just type everything the way you want. So if you type one here, one is just always one. But in JavaScript, the way you represent it matters. So in JavaScript, we have data type. But before I talk about data type, let me talk about comment. Just like the way we have it in HTML and CSS. Because there are some things you don't want, or you need to leave a note for yourself, but the stuff is not going to interpret it. So you can create a comment. And when you're talking about comment in JavaScript, we have two types of comment in JavaScript. So we have the single ah so we have the single line comment like this, and as you can see, this thing is complaining already because it doesn't know about what I'm typing now. Everything you type here is all about JavaScript, but I'm typing nonsense here. That's why it's underlined and it doesn't know anything that I'm typing. But this is a comment that I want. So in order for you to create a comment there like that, we have the single line comment. So the single line comment always start with this double slash. So whatever that follows that slash, they are all about comment. So it will not interpret the code. It will not interpret whatever you have on this line. But once you move to the next line, it's no more comment. That's why it is single line. So it's only that line that have the slash that is going to be treated as everything that follows the slash. So you can actually have something here, and after you have something here. So the only thing that will be comment is what follows the slash, not the one that comes before it. But once we move to the next line, no more comment like that. So this is the comment. This one is not comment. The only thing that is comment is what follow the slash. And after that slash, once you go to next line, is no more comment again. And I'll be using this in a lot because I don't want to delete, just like the way we did it in CSS. I don't want to delete them so that we can have a reference later on there. So for the other one, we have the multi. So we have this one have multi. It's not like the CSS. So we have the multi-line comment like this. So this is line. So this is line. So this is line 2, line 3, and so forth like that. So if you want to convert all of them to single line comment, you can just keep going to each one of the line and convert it to comment. But this is a waste of time like that. So instead of you doing this, you can actually create a multi-line comment. This is where the CSS steal their comment from. So here you start with slash, then followed by the way you do your comment in CSS. So this is where the CSS pick it from. Before, CSS1 doesn't have anything like comments like that. So this is where they pick the stuff from. So now, as you can see, once you open this, anything that follows it is always comment until you close the stuff. So once you close it, then it will stop with a comment. But most of the time, you always see me using this or the code editor because I'll be using the shortcuts to generate the stuff. So it's always going to be using this single line, or you can actually use the double line. Again, too, in some places you are going to see me using this type like that. They not send you to add this one like this, which is going to add some formatting into this thing later on. But for now, I will just leave it in this way. So as you can see, something just happened now after I press enter. So if I press enter again, or if I press enter, see that it's adding. So this is what we call the document like this. You can use this one to document your code, what is going on. That's why if you go to some code, if you over on them, it's giving you some comment there that this is what this thing is all about. So you can use this one now to create a document, comment, like a long comment, and what are the things you're expecting, what you are not expecting, and so forth like that. So that's what this comment is all about. Before I jump in into this, and as you can see now, I want to start using it. So we have the data. So we have the data types like that. And I told you under the data types, we have number. So number, we have different ways of representing number, but this is just the basic way of representing number. Number is just like whatever you type from your keyboard like that. So like 8, 1, -3, 0.5, and so forth like that. This is what we call number. But the number doesn't stop here. This is base 10. But you can actually represent this in base 2, in base 8, and in base 16. It supports base 16, it supports base 2, and it supports base 8, like that. So when you're talking about, so that's base 10, so number, so we have number like this. So let's just say base 2. So when you're talking about base 2, all the number, they start with 0B, not O, 0B, then followed by the, base 2 is just 0 and 1. So yeah, I can just do 1, 0, whatever stuff. So this is a number here. This is a number which is going to get converted to base 10 when you are doing it from the console. And you can see the result here. So here, we can come to the console and you do whatever you want to do there. So if I put 3, you can see it's just number 3. If I put -2, it's -2. 0.3 is just this 0.3. But now if I use 0B, 1010, as you can see that this is base 2, but now it has converted the stuff to base 10. So this same thing here is just as if you type in this. So that's the reason why it's known as, because there's some stuff. This one is when you're doing advanced stuff or mathematical stuff or something that deal with colors or something like that's where you'll be doing all this base 2, or you'll be doing that base 16 calculation. So when you want to do some crazy stuff, that's where you go. But since we are dealing with the web page, and the thing we're going to be doing here is not that going to be like a back end stuff. What we always use is this base 10, but it supports base 2 again too. It supports base 8 like that. And when you're talking about base 8, base 8 starts with 0 and followed by a number that is not greater than 8, that is not up to 8. So now you say, no, when you say base something, it means you are below that number, like that. So when you say base 8, so all this one now, it will not treat this in as 322. It will treat it as base 8 like that. So you want, but once you add another number, or once you put number after 0 that is greater than 7, then it knows that it is base 10. But if that number is not up to, or is not up to 8, it will think it's base 8 by default. Once you start with 0. Here now, if I use 089, as you can see, it knows that this is base 10 because this is not base 8. But if I use 0 to like this, can you see what is answering? So you might be thinking it's doing nonsense. It's not doing nonsense. So it's treating this in as base 8. So this is the conversion to base 10. So once you start with 0, if it normal 32 is 32, but once you start with 0 and number that follows that 0 are not up to 8, it is base 8 directly. So that when you are using all this, you not go and start with 0 and you are using a number that is not up to 8, you are not saying this thing is giving you wrong. It's not giving you wrong thing, it's because of this. Again, we have this base 16 like that. So when you're talking about base 16, it always starts with this 0x. Then whatever that follows it is base 16 number. And base 16 is 0 to 9, then A to F. That's base 16. So when you're talking about base 16, is 0 to 9. So the number is between 0 to 9 and A to F. So this is base 16. So this is base 16 like that. So any number in between this, you can combine them together to form your base 16. And this one is used when you want to create a large number, because base 16 is really, really large compared to base 8. And when you're dealing with color manipulation, you use something like this, or a large number to base 16. So 0x, not 0, 0x, then whatever that follows it, it will treat it as base 16. For example, if I use AB now, like that, as you can see. So it has converted. So this is AB is the same thing as this 171 in base 10, like that. So, but if you type something that is not in RH, then you are doing something else. For example, if I use 0Z now, so there is nothing like Z in base 16. So if I press enter, it knows that I'm doing nonsense. As you can see, invalid.
From X from 0x
Is the number. This is just normal number. Number for base 16 is 0 to 9, like 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way to 9. Then instead of 10, is now A. Instead of 11, is now B, and so forth, like all the way to F is 15, because it will never get to the base you are talking about. When you are dealing with base 23, that means the maximum there is 22. So since we are dealing with base 10 here, the maximum is going to be 9. That's 0 to 9. So this is base 10. But this one we are going to be using. We are not going to be using all this one. But in case you are doing something that get to them, so you need to know what is going on with them. So this is the number, and that's how we represent number. But in JavaScript, how do you represent text? Because here now, as you can see, this is a text. You can't just do something like this in JavaScript. You can see that it's outputting error, because you do, this is not the way we represent text. So in JavaScript, text are referred to as a string. So anywhere you hear the string in programming in general, just know that they are talking about text. So that's just what string is all about. But how do you represent it? Because you can't just type it anyhow like this. So we have a string, and when you're dealing with string, it can come with double quotes. So when you want to represent your string, you either put it inside double quotes, or you put it inside single quotes, or you put it inside backtick. So when you're representing string, so this is a string. So whatever string you are working with, it must be in a quote. But the quote you are using is depending on you. So you can use any one of them. It's going to work. So this one too now, instead of me using double, I can convert it to single. And the last one that we have there, which is going to be really powerful later on, is what we call this back tick. And what is back tick? So this is it here. Is on this your keyboard below escape key when you're using English keyboard. So once you type it, you can see that's where the name is coming from. See that it's facing back, and that's the same thing you are going to use to close it. So if you start with double, you must end with double. If you open with single, you must close with single. And if you open with backtick, you must close with backtick. You can't mix them, because you can actually use one of them inside the other. So when you're using double quote, you can put single inside. So it will treat it as normal character coming out like that. And this is it here. So let me go to the screen so that we can showcase all these things. And let me expand this thing very well so that we have enough room to work with. So yeah, to create your code, so you can put the stuff like that. So this is a string, and as you can see, even though the output is converting into a single, but you can use this in again. Instead of me using double, this is a string like that, and at the same time it will work. Or you can use backtick. This is a string, but this backtick is powerful, that we're going to be using later on to combine things, or to combine things together like that, because all this one, it's not that easy to combine things inside it, to create some dynamic content inside it. But with backtick, it's quite easy to derive your string based on some other value like that. You are going to see the same in action. For example, here now, if I use this single, if I just say this, or if I just say 2 plus 2, see here now, I don't want to type it myself. I want it to do the calculation. So here, if I just say 2 plus 2 back like that, you can see whatever you type, everything just will come back the way you type it. Which now bring me to this one here. This is not the same thing as this. Once you have quotes there, that's string. It's not number again. Once you have quote there, it's not number again, it's string. Once there is a quote, just know that it is string. But this one that did not have quote, this is a number. You can see the way it's representing them. This one, the color here is different from the color here. So the operation you are going to perform on this one is not the same operation you perform here. So which means here, if I do 2 plus 2 like this, as you can see, it's outputting everything the way I type it, because you see them as just normal text. But assuming it is this one now, as you can see, it's performing the mathematics stuff. We're going to get down into all this one, which is known as operators here. So this plus here is known as operators like that. And you're going to see a lot of operators later on. For example, we have the subtraction, we have the, or under the arithmetic, which is the mathematics one. Let me even add them to the page so that we explain it, because it's better you know all these things before we start using them, because when I start using them, it will look as if I'm doing one Chinese stuff like that. But before I get there, let me explain this other type first. So the string allows you to create a text in your code. Number is just normal number. Again, we now have this boolean, which is what we use to represent whether something is yes or no, or it is true or false. So boolean have two values. Boolean have two values. Boolean only have two value. What's this one? Microsoft, what's all this? So Boolean has two values. And the two values that we have for Boolean, so here we have Boolean, which can either be true or your Boolean can be false. So these are the only two values. And we normally use, or this is what you get when you're asking question later on. For example, you are asking whether that thing is on the page or not. So if it is on the page, what you get back is true. If it's not on the page, what you get back is false. And based on that, you can check that whether whatever that is coming back is true, do this. If it is false, do the other one, which is what is happening here on the site. You see that this stuff here that's gone again. You see that this thing is facing down. But once this thing is clicked, it's face up, because there's something that is being asked here that, okay, is this thing open? No. The answer will be the yes or no. But there's nothing like yes or no here. What we have is true or false. So when something is okay, it will return true. When something is not okay, it will return false. So based on that, now you know what to do, whether to display that stuff, or whether to change the direction of the stuff, or whether to change the color, or whether to make this thing to come down. So you are always going to see that boolean later on when you ask question. And some of the questions here that I can ask is 3 greater than 5? As you can see now, what it's telling me is false, because there is no way 3 will be greater than 5. This is an operator, which I'm going to talk better once we get there. But you can see the value that is coming out. So it's giving us boolean value. Anytime you ask question, what you get is true or false. Then based on that values, you can do whatever you want, because we have positive false and we have negative true. So you know, maybe when the thing is false, that's when you want to do something, and when it's not false, you don't want to do the stuff. For example, when there is rain, you know, that's when you don't want to go outside. But when there is no rain, that's, you know, that's negative this thing. So that's how it works, because depending on how you want to handle the stuff, and there's operators that you can use to move from one to another like that. But for now, let's just start with the basic stuff. So these other two, they are kind of something that is in JavaScript that we use to represent nothing. So we use them to represent nothing. For example, now imagine here we want to get elements on the page. What if that element is not on the page? So what are you going to get back? So you are going to either get this null or undefined, depending on the method you are using to get that element. So we used to represent that thing you are looking for, we cannot find it. So, and in JavaScript, there, null is being represented as, so null like this is being represented by null. And for the other one, which is undefined, that one too is being represented by undefined, like this. Please, everything here are case sensitive in JavaScript. JavaScript is case sensitive. So if JavaScript is expecting everything to be small letter, and you are not typing one of them in capital letter, you get error. So which means this true and false must always be like this. So the only thing we have here is true. We don't have true. This is error here, as you can see. Nothing like true. Even though to you, they are the same. To HTML, they are the same. But here, things are case sensitive. So you have to know the case, the way you arrange the letter. So if something is like this, get element, this is the way you have to type it. Not that you now be typing it like this. This is wrong. So as you can see, some of the stuff they used to mix the case together, and that's the same way you have to call it when you want to use it later on. So we are going to see a lot of things, but the way it's being typed in JavaScript or the way it's being created in JavaScript, that's the same way you are going to uh, the get element, the E, supposed to be in capital letter like this. So, but you're going to see where to use it when we get there. That's where we'll be using it. You can see, no. No, that one is when you're using something that is coming from it. But everything in CSS is always camel. It's known as a snake case. No, it's not snake case, so it's kaba. So we have something. We have different ways of creating names in programming. So in programming, we have a camel. So we have camel case. So the camel case, as you can see from the name, the starting is small letter, then every other word that follows it are in capital letter. For example, we have these two documents. Then we have this home away. The first one, the first letter is always small letter, but every other word that you are joining together, the other one will start with capital letter. So this is what we call camel case. As you can see from here, the starting is always small. Another one that we have here, or the another method you are going to be seeing, is known as Pascal case. So if you look at this one, as you can see, the starting is always capital too. The starting of each word is always capital. So from here now, it's going to be to document. Here is going to be home away. So when you see in this method, is known as Pascal case. Like again, we have the snake case. As you can see, the one of this one, so this is going to be to document. Everything is always going to be small letter, like that. So again, this is going to be home away, and that the way the CSS is using is kaba. I think that's what they call it, kaba case. So as you can see, what
to document,
where
say to document. So there's not going to be space.
we are going to, once we get to variable, you know the reason why all these things are here, because there are rules. So here now, if you know in the CSS, you are going to have this to document, then home away. So these are different way of creating names in programming. So depending on the programming you are working with, they come with their own like the preferred way of doing things. But in JavaScript, you can use any one of them, but you only see this thing a lot. This camel case for variables, which is something we are going to get to soon. And again, for classes, you're always going to see this Pascal case. And that's the reason why you said when I was typing some stuff that time, you see some things, they are in small letter, but when you get to some of them, as you can see, they are starting. So this is what we call, once you start with capital letter, they are known as class. And that's the reason why we follow convention, so that when you see something, you don't need to use it before you know what that thing is all about. So when you're dividing your variable, the variable are always starting with small letter or anything. So all this one, I just know that they are class. But those ones that start with small letter, they are not class. They are not normal variable or property when we get to the object later on. But if you look at this one, as you can see, this one is small, but when you get to this one, it's not capital. So all this thing, once you have capital, once you start with capital letter, just know that it's a class. That's what we call. Once it's this thing, it's just normal property or is a variable if you are the one defining the stuff like that. So these are types you need to know before we now move into variables. And what is variables? Just like your CSS, we use variable to represent value. This is where the CSS borrowed the stuff from. Before, there is no variable in CSS, but they want to make it easier, just like the way it is in JavaScript. That's why they added variable there. And what is variable? Variable is a name that you are using to represent your value. You know, value here, you can have number, you can have string, you can have boolean, you can have null, and you can have undefined. So how do you now use something to represent them? How do I, so instead of me mentioning 2 every time, what does this 2 represent? Every time I want to, I always bring out 2. What is that 2 representing? Is it the age of someone? Is it the score of someone? Or is it the step you have to take before you get to this so address? Or is it a street number? Or, so what does this 2 represent? So we can use variable now to create a name to represent that value. So, and how do you create it? we have this defining a variable, we have a way of initializing a variable, and we have a way of assigning a. So by the time we talk about this, you are going to see that all these things are just simple stuff like that. They are just using English to differentiate them, so that when you talk about define later on, once you know what they are talking about. When you say initialize, you already know what they are talking about, and when they say assign, you already know what they are talking about. But everything is just all about variables like that. So variables are very important because you need it to represent some stuff or to save the value, so that you don't need to keep getting the value again and again and again. Because later on, when I want to get element on the page, I don't need to start getting it every time. Once I get it once, I can save it in a variable, and anytime I need it, I will just call that variable to come. Not that I will keep writing the code that get the element every time. Get it one, save it somewhere, which is going to be inside variable. Then anytime I need it, call the variable to give you what is inside it. But you need to know how to define a variable. So here we have variables. This is what I was expecting this to show before. Oh, because I use single. Yeah. So yeah, we have variables. So we should be able to define a variable like that. At the same time, we should be able to initialize a variable, and at the same time we should be able to assign a variable. And when you're talking about assign, you want to change what is there before to another thing. So that's just what the assignment is all about. So it's not that it's doing any simple stuff. This thing is representing 2 before, or the address number is 2, but your address number has changed, so we need to replace it where you save the address number like that. So how do you define a variable? So in JavaScript, to define a variable, you need to specify the variable name. As you can see now, I'm using that camel case, but you can use any of the, but you cannot use this one in JavaScript. You cannot use this one in JavaScript. It doesn't work. These are the only 3 methods that you can use. This one will not work. This one will only work for CSS like that. So you can, yes, you cannot use it here. So you only work inside CSS, because that's how they represent their properties. You use iPhone to separate what. But here, you can use snake case, Pascal case, or camel case. But I'm going to be using camel case because that's the standard for JavaScript. And this is the standard for classes. And we're not dealing with any class right now. We are dealing with variables. But if you want, you can actually do it like this and it's still going to work. So it will still work. But I will not be using this method. So when you want to define a variable in JavaScript, so your variable, I have to start with this let. So let variable name. So what you are doing on this line is that you are telling JavaScript, I want to create a variable, or I want to create a name that I'm going to be using to represent a value later on. But right now, I don't have the value. But I know I'm going to give it value later on. So when you don't know the value at the point of creating it, that's what we call variable. You are defining a variable. You are just defining it, not that the value is there yet. You are just talking to JavaScript that I'll be using this variable later on to represent something. But right now, I don't have that thing that is going to represent. But I know that I'm going to use it later on there like that. So we normally use this. There's other way of doing it in old JavaScript, but we're always going to follow the new JavaScript of creating variable. In the olden days, you are going to see some people creating their variable with this var like that. But I'm not going to be using var because it has some evil stuff that this thing used to do. And that's the reason why they introduced this let, and the other one that I'm going to be showing under this initialization. But you can use let here and you can use let here. But the other one, you can only use it here. So and what's this other one there? So it's known as const. So again too, we have the variable name 2 like this. As you can see, look at what just happened. Look at what just happened now. You see that he's already telling me that this thing is already, I've already talked to him that I want this thing before here. Why are you trying to do it again here? And that's the reason why I said I don't want to use var like that. Can you see now? var will not want you. But when you start running your code, that's where the problem will start comes in. But with let, they tell you when you have the same name in the same block, it will tell you that you've already had this thing before, so that you don't need to run the code before you even see the error. Because when you run this in later on, or maybe your code is really long, or the line is like maybe 500 line, you might not even see that something has already happened. But this thing will already show you, you already see the error from here based on this one. But assuming we are using var now, or I did not even put anything, this one too will work when you don't put it. But these are the problem they used to cause, and that's why we don't use them again like that, because you want this thing to be able to catch error for you before you even run it. Because JavaScript is crazy. Once you do anything that it cannot, you'll see that by the time you get to the screen, you get the error. As you can see, syntax like that. As you can see, has already been declared. So why do you need to do it again? Based on that, you quickly fix the error. But assuming I'm not using all those who are now and I just save it, the only error you just see is just this line error. But when you started doing some stuff, you know that it's going to be a clash in a value, because you'll be assuming maybe you put 2 here and you now change from here, to change to another thing, it will cause problem. So that's why you should always declare your variable that you want to change later on as a let. And any one of them that you don't want to change later on, you are going to use const. We use const when you have a variable that you want to work with and you already have the value, and that value will not change. So here now I can just use the value. So this is how to, and this is what we call variable initialization here. So when they say you should initialize a variable, what they are telling you is create a variable and you give it the value that is given to you. But when they say you should define a variable, just create a variable. But at this moment, we don't have a value yet. But when they tell you to assign a variable, what that means is that the value is already, like the variable has been created before, you just want to replace what is inside that variable. That before you can assign, you must have already created that variable. When you're talking about initialization, you are creating the variable and at the same time you are giving it the value. But when you use const, because you can use let too, when you use const, it means this variable will not change again after that line. But if you want the value to still change after that line, then you have to use let variable name then value. So this first one, you can't change it apart from this line. But this one, you can change it after this line. So if you know that you're not going to change it, you're going to always use const. But if you know that you're always going to change it later on, you are going to use let. And again, the const, you must give it value, because it needs to know that value on that line. And once it's know the value, you cannot change that value again for all these simple data type. But once you get to a bigger data type later on, because this is another data type here, which is this array, and this is another data type. That's why I separate them from this one here. So we have this simple data type, but all this one too, you can combine them together to form this or to form this one like that. But for now, we are not there, so we are starting with the basic one. So all this one is complaining now because I'm recreating them again. So this one is just a sample so that you know how things work. But in a real sense, for example here, let's create let age. So this is my variable. So I'm naming it age. So let school address like that, or let home address. So I'm creating all these variable, and later on I can have access to them or change the value or even give them value. So which is by using the assign meant like that. So here now, these are our variable. They don't really have any value right now. So what are we going to get? What if you console log them? For example, what if I console log age? What am I going to get? Can you see now the one we talked about under the type? Because there is nothing inside the variable. You only declare it, but nothing is inside it. So what are you looking for? Nothing. So I told you, when you are trying to access something and that thing is not there, you either get null or undefined. So as you can see, the way it's representing it, this is a type in JavaScript, a special type in Java. It's not string, it's a special type, and you can even use it too directly by setting it to undefined, which is the same thing that JavaScript will do. So if you create your variable and you don't give it a value, this is what is going to be there by default. Or you too, you can create it yourself like that. So if I save it, you see that we still get the same result. But that doesn't mean I cannot change this value. So here under the assignment now, to assign a variable, you are going to have your variable name, then followed by this symbol and followed by value. As you can see here now, there is nothing like let or const. When you've already created your variable and you now do it like this, what you are doing is that you are replacing what is there before into this new value. So for example here now, that age that we have at the top, so we can just say age is 2 like this. So if I console log out the age, you see that the first time age will be undefined. Then after the age node on line 51 now, we now replace the value with 2. So it will remove this undefined and it will replace with 2. So the next time you have, like, you try to access the value, you get the updated value like that. The same thing too for every other variable. But once you use const, you cannot change the value. So here, when you are dealing with const, you cannot do something like this. It will give you error. You cannot reassign a variable that you created with a const keyword like that. So const is not uh, there for changing. That's the reason why. So anything you know you are not going to change, you start with const automatically, because that's something you'll be doing later on. There's no way the element on the page you want to like change the value to another thing. So you always use const for it like that. But if you know that it's something that you're going to change, then you use let to represent your variable. So this thing is very important because these are the things we are going to be using later on. There are some you're going to create yourself, which is like this, while some has been created already. Your own is just to use them, just like the tag that you have p, you have h1, but you know you can combine them together to form another uh, element on the screen. Like maybe you have one image by this side, other content by this side. You know, you need to group them together so that you'll be able to apply your CSS. It will now look as if it's one element. So here too, there are things that have been created already for you in JavaScript and some that you are going to create yourself like that. Before we stop, let me quickly add the operator to the list. So we have the operator in JavaScript like that. So we have operators. We have operators. We've used one of them already. And again, before I even talked about operator like that, we have keywords. Keywords. So keywords. So what is keywords? Keyword as a special uh, JavaScript variables. Keyword are JavaScript special JavaScript variables. So which means all these things you cannot use them to do something else apart from whatever they are doing. So you cannot use them as your own variable. So for example, now this true now, you cannot say you want to use this thing as your variable name. This is special. So you can see that it has color. His own color is different. The same thing too if I use undefined like this, as you can see. So all these things they are referred to as keywords. And we have a lot of them in JavaScript that you cannot tell them to do something else. They have what they are doing. The same thing here too, we have class. You cannot use it. Class has what it's doing in JavaScript. They have a special function in JavaScript. Again, too, another thing you're going to see later on is this function. It's special in JavaScript. You cannot use it to do something else. So we have a lot of them. If you try to use them and you don't use them the correct way, it will complain that you are not using this thing correctly. You can see syntax error. Even if I use it to create a variable, for if I just say let function equals to 5 like this, it will complain because I'm doing something wrong. As you can see, unexpected token function. Because this function, it has what you used to do in JavaScript. So you cannot use it as your own variable. It is special. And those special words, they are known as keywords. The same thing to this let too. You cannot use it as part as the, so you can't just say let. It doesn't make sense. So it will be thinking you are doing something else and you know that this thing is not correct. It will output errors. You can see let is disallowed. You cannot use it. So anything that is part of JavaScript you cannot use them. You can use them in the normal way that they're supposed to work, like they have a way they need to work, but you cannot give them another meaning. It will not work. So they are referred to as a keyword, and you have been seeing some of them already, like this less, like the const, like that. Which other one have you used here? Like all this null, true, false. They are special keyword in JavaScript. So they have what they are doing. You cannot give them another meaning. So whatever JavaScript want them to do, that's the only thing they are going to do, and you have to use them in the correct way. If you use them in the wrong way, you get error, as you can see, like that. But before we call it, let's just add these operators to the list. So under the operators, we have the arithmetic, which are just the simple one like that. You have the plus, you have the minus. So they, just like machine, you have a machine that operates on clothes. We have different operator that can do things for you. Again, the operator carry out action, help you to carry out a specific action. So for example, you want to add two numbers together now. There's an operator for that that will add the two numbers together, which is the same thing like your normal mathematics. That's why we call it arithmetic. So all these ones are coming from normal mathematics, but we have different operators that you can use to carry other operation, like that. For example, what if you want to check two things are not equal, or what if you want to check if they are equal, or what if you want to check if something is greater than the other one, or something is not greater than the other one? We have operator for all these actions, like that. So we have the addition, we have the subtraction there. When you want to multiply, we use the asterisk. When you want to divide, we use the forward slash, not the back, like that. Again, when you want to raise to power, we use this double asterisk. So this is known as a power, like that. So these are different, or these are the basic arithmetic operator that you can use. For example, here now 2 plus 2, like this. As you can see, it's carry out the operation and we get the results, like that. Or 35 minus 2, as you can see, we have the result. Or I have minus 35 plus minus, as you can see in mathematics, can be in front of number. The same thing plus 2, you can bring in front of, but adding plus in front of number is just waste of time, because it's just the same thing as you do not have in it, because it will not have any effect. So plus 2 like this, as you can see, because minus plus 2, it will remove this one from it. Not that, even though it's adding, but because you already have deficit there, so it will remove. That's why it's going like this. So it works like your normal mathematics, like that, except that plus, the way it's working with string is different from the way it's working with number. This is it. When you do 3 plus 3, it's working like your normal mathematics. But once there is a quote beside one of the number, it doesn't do normal mathematics again. What is work on is I just join them together, which is what we call concatenation. So anytime you use plus with string, it will join them together. It doesn't do any calculation again. It's only plus that is doing this crazy stuff, because it's plus, depending on where you use it, the action or the operation is going to carry out is different. So when you use it with number, you get your normal mathematics. But when you use it, yeah, other one will work like that. So because that's what I just mean. We call it concatenation when you're dealing with string. But when you're using it with number, we call it the addition. So it's working as addition when you're using it with number. But once you use it with string, it's now concatenation operator. Again, too, when you use two of it beside a number, that's another thing, which is known as arithmetic is known as an incremental operator. For example, here now, let's assume I have a variable a and I give it 5. So if I do plus plus a like this, you can see what just happened. That's increased the value by 1. So this is another operator on it. So this is another operator, but we are not there yet, and we don't even need it right now for what we want to do. So when you use string with plus, is going to join them together. Once there's a string on any of the side, it's joining them together. It doesn't care. But if the two sides are number, then you are going to get what you're expecting, like that. So here, if I use 6, then plus 2, you're not going to see 62. But it's not 62, it's just 62. To you it's 62, but is just 6 and 2. So that's what it's doing. But here now, if I do the same thing for minus, you see that it's actually working. Because when you're dealing with minus, that one is not doing any other operator. So you to convert this one to a number first before you now perform the normal mathematics. But which means if you put something you did not understand, you are going to get something that, so which is now going to give you this none. And what is this now? This is just not a number. That's just the full meaning. It's telling you that the result of this thing, will never be a number, because there's no way you be removing minor, or you be removing 2 from this AB. It doesn't make sense.
You put a calculator in, not a number.
Yeah. That's no. I'm the one that just combine them together. Normal. This is just normal text. That's the full meaning of this none. None is just not a number. What's wrong with this? So not a number. That's not. Once you get now, it means you are trying to convert to a number, but those things that you are combining together, you can you can't convert them to a number. So that's what that thing means. Like that. Again, you can convert to number yourself. If that thing is string before, that's why that plus is kind of a crazy. The where you place it determine how it works. So for example, now assuming I have these three, I don't want you to calculate that nonsense. I want you to convert these three to number first before doing calculation. You can actually put the plus in front of it. So put the plus in front of it first. Then what this plus will not be here is that once you put plus before a string, before, not after it, before, it will try to convert what is inside that place to number. Which is what that plus is doing there is just the same thing as just doing number, but we're going to talk about all this bracket stuff when we get to functions. So which is what we're going to start with in the next class. As you can see now, so anything you pass to this thing, it will convert it to a proper number. But instead of you typing all this long stuff, the same thing is what this plus here is doing. So plus, once it's come before the string, anytime it comes before the string, like that, it will try to convert it to number. But if it's something that you cannot convert, you get nothing. You can see that they are doing the same thing. So it's that you do it like this and you do it like this. But this one is more clearer. You know what is going on there. But it's only those people that have experience about this thing that knows what this is going on. Because to normal people, you just say plus. Why is there no number in front and you're adding? So they will thinking the thing will not be this one. But that's not what it's doing. This one will convert whatever that is decided. Once it's before the string and there is nothing on the left side of it, that's what it's going to do. But if it's like this, then it's something else. So we must put something here to add. But if it is not here and it is here, then that means it will do the conversion. And if it's something that you cannot convert, you see that you get not a number, because there's no way to convert 3a dad into number. Some language, they will pick this number here and leave the rest. While here is not a number. Once there is something that cannot convert to number in that text, you get NaN like that. Again, when you want to multiply, just do 3 times. So it will do multiplication like that. So 36 times 2, you get the result. And if you want to raise to power, so 6 raised to power 2, then you type but it have to be together. So this one now raised to power 2. So it's the same, it's different from this. As you can see, when it is 1, it's multiplication, but when it is 2, it is power. So this is 6 raised to power 2, while this is 6 multiplied by 2, like that. So they are not the same. Again, too, when you want to divide, so this one too is simple. 6 divided by 2, you get the result. 2 divided by 6, you get the result like that. But you can actually truncate this in. Now I told you JavaScript come with a lot of goodies. So if I want, I can truncate this in into 3 decimal place, but we don't care about that one for now. When we need it, we start using the stuff, because when you're dealing with money online, as you can see here, even though this thing behind the scene, the value that might be returned will not be these 3 or will not be these 2 decimal place, but I can talk to you that only display 2 decimal place out of the value, because when you calculate the result, it might give you something like this, but you need to be able to convert it to the other one that you want, like that, which we can do to fix like that, and from there I can just tell it, as you can see, it will do what I want it to do. So it come, but what all these things, I need to explain all this one first before you start using all these goodies like that, because when you just start using them and you don't know what is going on, it will not Make sense like that. So another operator that we have, let me quickly explain this one, is known as um, relational operator there. So when you're talking about relational, this one you can check whether something is greater than, something is less than, is greater than or equals to, is less than equals to, not equal to, or it is equal to. Please, this one is not equal. This is what we call assignment. Once you use it like this, is to take whatever that is on the right, is to put it in what is on the left. That's what it's doing. Once there is this one, we don't call it equal to. This is assignment here. Equal to is this one here. This is equal to. You can use two, you can use three, but always use three. Two is the olden days. It will still work. That's the olden way of doing the stuff. But this is the one that you should always use.
Is it because it's an operator or because it's a keyboard?
It's operator now. Even this one too is operator. That's why I mentioned the name of his own operator. So his own is known as this assignment. That's why we call it yeah. That's why we call it this assign a variable. So it's known as assignment operator because that's the one that is perform the action for you. So this is the assignment operator. It's only the one that is there. But you can have the compound assignment that combine this one or this one together with this, like that. So this is how it works here. The assignment is used with variables. Where you have variable on the left, you have the value on the right. So it will take the value on the right and it will put it on the variable. That's the job. But for all this one, you use to check them whether something is related to the other one. Like that. That's the reason it is relational operator and like that. And they work on based on something like this. This is how it works. So you have your A here, then you have the operator here, then you have the B. Then from there, they are going to return true or false. That's what they always return. When you are dealing with this operator, you either get true or false. All of them here. These are the only two results you can get from it. Is that true or false? You can never get any other result. So you can never get any other result when you are dealing with relational operator like that. So relational operator deals with this. For example, I want to check if 5 or if 6 is greater than 5. And as you can see, it's true. But 6 is not greater than 6. It's false. There's no way you'll be greater than yourself. But 6 can actually be greater or equal to 6. So this one now is checking two things, not just one. Is that this one is greater than this, or this one is equal to. So as long one of them is true, the two of them are true. It's only looking for one to be true. But if none of them is true, then that means the thing is not true. So if false is check, is it greater than 10? No. But is it equals to 10? No. So that is no way 6 will be greater than 10. No. So that's why it is false. Because the two of them are not true. None of them is true. So since none of them is true, then everything will be false. But if one of them is true, then the two of them will be true. So that's how this one works. The same thing too when you're dealing with less than. So 6 is not less than 6. But 6 can be less or equal to 6. Because for 6 is not less than, but 6 is actually equal. So since one of them is true, then the two of them are true. The same thing here too is 6 less or equals to 3 is false because 6 is not less than 3 and at the same time 6 is not equals to 3. So what if we now want to check if something is actually equal, not greater or not less? So here we can just use this one. So is 6 equals to 6? Yes. Is 6 equals to 61? False. Because there is no way the two of them will be equal to each other like that. But what if we want to check if they are not equal? Now that is negative success. So if they are not equal, that's when you want to do something. That means when this thing is not open, oh, that's where I want you to create the stuff. But when it is open, don't do anything. So here too we can check by using not. So this is negative, then you put it there. So when they are not equal to 6, that's when it's going to return true. As you can see, don't. So when it's always returning the opposite of this one. So anywhere this one give you true, that's where it's going to give you false. And anywhere this one give you false, that's where it's going to give you true. Because it's always doing the opposite. So if they are equal, that's false. But if they are not equal, that's true. But that's what it's looking for. It's only when they are not equal that is going to be true. So if I do 8 now, then it will, because there's no, that means it's saying that 6 is not equal to 8. So yeah, it's actually true. Then it will return true back to us like that. There's still some other operators that we're going to be talking about later on, but for now, I don't think we need them. We need this logical. We might need to come back into it. So this one, it's kind of a crazy a little bit. So we have the or, which you use to check whether what you have on the left or what you have on the right. But the way it works, I will explain it in the class that requires the stuff. Again, we have the and. This is and. So this is or. Then we have the last one, which is not. So it's not the same thing as this one. No, they are not doing the same thing. So this is not, which is this one. If something is true, it will negate it to false. And if something is false, it will negate it to true. That is its own job. So when something returns true, take it to the other side.
You mean the not?
Yes. So it's always returning what is not that thing you are checking. So if the thing is not open, that's when you want to change. Or if the user is not signing, show them the login page. But if they sign in, you don't want to do something like just go to another place. And that's where this thing is going to come in later on. I did not add this one. I don't know why I forget this very important stuff like that. So after variables, we talked about operators like this. Then after operators, um, after this, let me see, we're going to be, after functions, we're going to be talking about conditional, we're going to be talking about, let's call it branching and looping like this. But for now, we'll just talk about branching. I will skip the looping part like that. So let me just put the two of them here. So branching and looping. So because sometimes you want your code to only do something, is only going to branch into that place when something is true. No, because when the user is not logged in, why do you want to show something that is meant for logging user to them? So you only want something to show to a particular user if a particular condition is met. So like this side now, once the user log out or their token expire, you see that they will be logged out automatically because you are not. Can you see now? That place that is showing before, can you see what is happening now? You check. Do you see have access to that page? You don't have access again. Can you see what is that showing? It's telling you to log in again because your token has expired or your stay at that place has expired. So we need to know you again. So once you now sign in again and it's cross-check and see that you are a valid user, you see that it will go back to that place. So you need this branching in order for you to be able to do that. So we need branching. And under the branching like this, we have the if statements. So like that, we have the if else statement. We only talk about all the simple one, but it's go more than this like that. So again, after the branching, we have switch, but I will not talk about that one too because I always want to talk about the quick one that we need so that we start working first. Then when we now need all those other ones, it will not come later. Not that we start talking about all of them and we've not really put them into use like that. So under the looping, so we started with it's going to be this like that. So where is this li? So the li is here. So I'm going to have another li. So we're going to have the loop. And yes, in JavaScript, we have a better way of dealing with loop. So we have the for loop like that. So what is this? So we have the li. So we have the for loop and we have the for each like that. So yeah, so this is where I'm going to stop. The next class now, we're going to be starting with functions. Then we talked about this branching. Skip this looping for now. So we'll be able to talk about array and objects because they are very important. Then when we started working with this side, like that. So anyone we need any of this other information, they will now bring them in. So I prefer it like that than just be talking about all the constructs and to get boring once you don't start using them. Once you start using them, something will keep coming out and we bring them in at that point. So that's going to be all like that. So